This Day in Sports History. This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. Fellas, you've heard the phrase, look good, feel good, right? But why not add smell good to that too? That's where Sterling Soap Company comes in. First, Sterling Soap is 100% natural and has a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne. Second, there's a scent just for you. How about burgundy? Yeah, it's more than a color. The Sterling Soap folks blend natural essential oils with hints of mahogany, golden amber, and sandalwood. Or how about D503, an intensely masculine scent inspired by Legend by Mont Blanc. And third, you will feel good about the price. For just a little more than you'd pay at the grocery store, Sterling Soap will leave you feeling clean, refreshed, and ready for whatever's next. Give Sterling Soap a try today. Visit sterlingsoap.com. Hey, and welcome to This Day in Sports History. Today's episode is going to be a bit football heavy, but there's just too much cool stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. It's November 8th, and on this day in 1997, it was a miracle finish in what became known as the Flea KICKER game in Columbia, Missouri. The Nebraska Cornhuskers came into this game undefeated and the top-ranked team in the country. Mizzou was 6-3 and just 2 weeks prior had knocked off number 12 Oklahoma State in double overtime, and they were riding a wave of confidence after 3 straight wins. Missouri quarterback Corby Jones threw his third touchdown pass with 4 minutes 39 seconds to play in this one to give the Tigers a 38-31 lead. It stayed that way into the final minute. Nebraska had the ball and was desperate to find a way to the end zone. With 7 seconds left and the Huskers with the football at the Tiger 11-yard line, they legitimately had one shot left. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. With the call from that day for ABC, here's Brent Musburger.
Third down. Frost to the middle. Juggle. Diving touchdown, Nebraska. Davison on the deflection. Nebraska's a point away from tying the game. The deflection is caught. The fans have broken into the end zone. They expected the game to be over. But a touchdown was signaled for in the end zone. They'll clear the field and kick for the tie. We could be headed to overtime.
Quarterback Scott Frost lasered a pass to Chevin Wiggins. It hit him in the chest, but he didn't grab it. As the ball was falling to the ground and Wiggins was falling backward, he kicked the ball into the air. Matt Davison came from out of nowhere, dove and caught the ball before it hit the ground. Now, kicking the ball intentionally like that would be illegal. Incomplete pass, game over, Missouri wins. But an unintentional kick, a ricochet, say, is not illegal. The officials could not determine intent, and it was ruled a touchdown. Years later, Wiggins admitted he definitely kicked it intentionally into the air. After the PAT, the game was tied, and it went to overtime. Frost ran in the go-ahead TD on Nebraska's first possession, and then Nebraska's D kept the Tigers out of the end zone on their try to secure the 45-38 win. The close win actually cost the Huskers 2 spots in the rankings, but they were able to win out. They beat Tennessee in the Orange Bowl, and they ended up the year number 1 in the Coaches Bowl. So this is the last year before the BCS championship game. It was the third game in the 90s that the national title had been split. Now, if Nebraska had lost this game and Michigan was number 1 in both polls at the end of the year, the BCS championship may have been delayed a few more years. On this day in 1975, Daniel Rudy Reutiger made his appearance for Notre Dame that would later be immortalized in the film Rudy. The 12th-ranked Fighting Irish were at home against Georgia Tech. Dan Devine was in his first year as the head coach of the Irish, and his team was 6-2 at this point. Rudy Reutiger was one of 20 walk-ons with the Irish in the 75 season. At 5 feet 6 inches tall and about 165 pounds, he wasn't somebody who met the typical physical standards of a Notre Dame recruit. His main role as a walk-on defensive end was to be on the scout team during the week and give the offense a look at what the upcoming opponent may run against them. Rudy impressed a lot of his teammates in practice with his effort every day, but he wasn't a guy who got a spot on the game day roster. The game against Georgia Tech was the final home game for the Irish in '75, and so it's a time to say thanks and farewell to the seniors on the team. Reserve defensive back Pat Sarb went to Coach Devine in the week leading up to the Tech game, and he requested that Rudy take his spot. Devine agreed, but gave no guarantees that he would actually be given a shot to play. Notre Dame running back Jerome Heavens was a big reason that Rudy got a shot to play in this one. Heavens had 152 yards rushing and scored twice. In addition, if the Irish had not stopped Georgia Tech's powerful offense, holding them to 143 yards rushing and 3 points, well, Rudy would have been nothing more than a spectator for this one. The Irish built up a 24-3 lead in the fourth, and they were cruising to their 7th win of the year. The Yellow Jackets had the football with time running down, and what happened next inspired the movie. Here's former Notre Dame defensive tackle Nick Fedorenko retelling his story for Notre Dame's production of 125 years of Notre Dame football.
One of our defensive ends, I think it was like the second to last player, or ran off the field, and his name was Tony Zappola. And I go, where's he going? I was playing defensive tackle on the left side. Well, anyway, next thing I know, this guy comes running out. You know, Rudy, and he's jumping up and down, acting like a wild man, going, where should I go? Where should I go? I said, well, here, Rudy, play defensive end in the end, and what I'll do, I'll grab the guard and tackle, and I'll push him this way, and I'll spin, and if the quarterback comes our way, hit him. Well, it just so happened the ball gets hiked. I come across, I grab the guard and the tackle and push them together and spin on the other side. And I kind of falling down, and the quarterback, here comes the quarterback. I grab his leg, and of course Rudy hits him, and they make a movie about it.
People involved in the game say that most of the movie is true to life, but one thing that did get dramatized was the scene where Notre Dame players walk into Coach Devine's office and say, "Let Rudy wear my jersey." Here's former Notre Dame fullback Steve Orsini debunking that story.
The one thing that's not true is I worked so hard to get my jersey. That scene where all the players were giving their jerseys back to Coach Devine and say, "Here, let Rudy wear my jersey." That wasn't going to happen. I worked too hard to get that varsity jersey and trot out in that field.
The movie starring Sean Astin as Rudy came out in 1993, and it all goes back to what happened on this day in 1975. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. One guy who definitely deserves a movie to be made about his life is John Gagliardi. Gagliardi was a college football coach for 64 years, the last 60 of those at Division III's St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. Well, on this day, Gagliardi's Johnnies were playing a home conference game against Bethel College. This was a close game throughout, and when St. John's quarterback Ryan Keating hit Josh Nelson for a 5-yard touchdown with 2:03 left in the game, it gave the Johnnies the lead for good at 29-26. The win on this day was Gagliardi's 409th, passing Grambling's Eddie Robinson as the all-time winningest college football coach. St. John's would go on to win out, finishing the season at 17-0 and winning the Division III championship. Gagliardi would continue to coach until 2012 before finally hanging up the whistle and the clipboard. He is still the all-time winningest coach in college football history with 489 total wins, and his 64 years on the sidelines is unequaled. On this day in 1980, Illinois quarterback Dave Wilson launched an impressive aerial attack against Ohio State, despite the fact that the Big Ten was desperately trying to bar him from playing. In fact, Wilson was playing under a court injunction allowing him to play while his case about his eligibility played out in the judicial system. The Big Ten argued that Wilson didn't have enough academic credits to compete as a senior. Wilson, who had started out at Cal and then transferred to Illinois after 2 years, maintained he was only a junior with 2 years of eligibility left. A 4-3 decision by the Illinois Supreme Court in October allowed Wilson to keep on playing for the Illini as the snail pace of the justice system slowly progressed. On this day, the 7th-ranked Buckeyes raced out to a 35-7 lead, and that's when Wilson went to work. He completed 43 of his 69 pass attempts for 621 yards and 6 touchdowns to put the Illini back in the ballgame. The Buckeyes survived the assault. They added 2 more touchdowns of their own to win 49-42. Wilson's 629 yards set a new NCAA record, besting BYU's Mark Wilson's 571 yards in 1977. His record stood for 8 years before being topped. The current record of 734 yards passing is held by Texas Tech's Patrick Mahomes and Washington State's Connor Halliday. Wilson continued to battle with the Big Ten Conference about his eligibility to play in the 1981 season, but in April was denied the chance. And on this day in 1970, New Orleans Saints kicker Tom Dempsey kicked a 63-yard field goal, and it led to changes in the league. Dempsey was born with no toes on his right foot or fingers on his right hand. He wore a specially made squared shoe on his right foot, and this was a game between the New Orleans Saints and Detroit Lions at Tulane Stadium. The Lions kicked a field goal with 18 seconds left in the game to take a 17-16 lead. The Saints didn't have many options. Saints quarterback Billy Kilmer found receiver Al Dodd for a first down just shy of midfield at the 45. Only 2 seconds remained on the clock. So, throw a Hail Mary or let Dempsey take a shot. Neither seemed to be a good option, but out trotted Dempsey. So a few things to know. 1, the goalposts were at the front of the end zone at this point. 2nd, Dempsey was a traditional straight-on kicker. Soccer-style guys were just coming into fashion. And 3rd, the record at this point was 56 yards. His holder set up at the 37-yard line, 13 yards behind midfield. Here's Don Crickey with the call of Dempsey's kick.
Not only will Tom Dempsey hits this one, he's got a very slight wind at his back. He'll set a National Football League record in addition to winning the game. I don't believe this. It's good! I don't believe it! The field goal attempt was good from 63 yards away! It's incredible! Tulane Stadium has gone wild!
So, there were some who said that Dempsey's special shoe gave him an unfair advantage. In an ESPN Sports Science piece decades later, their analysis found there was no advantage gained by the squared-off shoe. The NFL did make some changes, though. In 1974, the league decided to move the goalposts to the back of the end zone. That wasn't a direct result of Dempsey's kick, but an effort to make field goals a little tougher in general. They also added a rule about where the opposing team would get the football if a kick was missed. And in 1977, the league added what became known as the Tom Dempsey rule, which said any shoe that is worn by a player with an artificial limb on his kicking leg must have a kicking surface that conforms to that of a normal kicking shoe. Dempsey's record stood for 33 years until Denver's Matt Prater kicked a 64-yarder in 2013. The current record belongs to Baltimore's Justin Tucker, who kicked a 66-yarder in 2021. Interestingly enough, on a last-second game winner against the Detroit Lions to win 1917, just like Dempsey's. Time now for today's Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The Statue of Liberty has a 35-foot waistline and wears a size 879 shoe. That's a wrap for today. Come on back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.